And now joining the TravelPulse Podcast, we have two guests this week. New for us is Jemica Archer, travel advisor and owner of TruBlue Travels. Jemica, thank you for joining us. Tell our guests a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being on today, being a part of the discussion. I am a travel agent or advisor. I've been in the industry since 2012. My agency specializes in international and romantic travel. So anywhere you need a passport to go, we can create travel experiences and curate exactly what you're looking for.
Excellent. Thank you, Jemica. That's wonderful. And our second guest that we have joining us comes from our side of things on the media side. Alex Temblador is a novelist, feature writer, TravelPulse, been with us for a number of years now, covers a lot of race related topics in the travel industry, as well as a number of other things. But Alex, thank you for joining us. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself as well.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I've been a travel writer since 2015. I've been internationally published in multiple outlets across the world, but I've been with TravelPulse for a couple of years now. I was an associate writer on the weekend, so you probably saw some of my work there. But I'm really glad to be here today to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the travel industry.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us, Alex. So we'll just get right into this question. Start off with both of you. If Jemica, you want to answer first, and then kick it to Alex here. Is what key steps do you think can be taken to combat racism in the travel industry?
You know, this was one of the questions that I really had to give a lot of thought to when I was previewing. And I would say there's so many different things. One thing that I've come to understand is, we try to tackle any issue of inclusion and race in any segment of society. There's so many different areas that we can work on. One of the things that I always think is simple is just awareness, education, and conversations with each other, because a lot of times we find that a lot of the misunderstandings we have are just due to lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. So having conversations, training and development, I think for staff sometimes in different destinations on how to handle cultural differences, still treating people the same and being inclusive, but not necessarily giving a lesser quality of service to a certain population, just keeping it white glove service across the board regardless of race. And then I also think that leadership in this tourism, they need to include some more diversity in some key leadership roles, in marketing efforts and outreach efforts. I think it's very important, or a few key steps that we can do to start to slowly, change the narrative regarding diversity, race, and racism in travel,
And Alex?
Yes. So I think the travel industry has been obviously having this conversation for the last few weeks. It's been exciting to see leaders bringing their employees together to talk about things, and that is definitely the first step. But I just don't want the travel industry to get a little bit relaxed at this moment. We have a lot to do. A lot of that is going to be kind of taking on racism from the travel industry perspective as part of a service to all the travelers out there. I mean, we want travelers to be able to travel around the world without the experiences of stereotypes and racism or discrimination or prejudice in any sense. And so really trying to figure out, how are we offering services to clients? Do they have unconscious racism or bias within those services? I love that Jemica said that we need to, train people at different levels of a company, whether it's somebody who's working at the front desk or somebody who is the CEO and the executive management teams, on how to be more inclusive within the companies, as well as marketing to diverse peoples. Relooking at ourselves and marketing strategies, I think, is going to be helpful, but really trying to just take moments to look at this and make it a practice in every aspect of the company is going to help break down those long-term institutionalized racism in the travel industry.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jemica.
No, I was going to say, I'm glad that Alex mentioned the unconscious bias piece, because I think that's something that is not necessarily always intentional. People maybe not always realizing how things can come across, and just being educated on unconscious bias. I mean, the first time I took a course in it, I really realized how, you can have a preconceived idea or unintentionally treat somebody different just on a bias that may be existing. So I think that I'm glad that Alice mentioned that. I think that is a rollout or a training opportunity that people can roll out across the board, and it applies to various populations. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it's very important to bring up, and something I want to start with Alex next on when we talk about that topic and just overall travel companies that can have room to improve on their inclusivity, including any different areas, whether it's race, gender, everything across the board. Alex, and then Jemica can follow up on Alex here. Is there any specific areas? I know you talked across the board, a lot of different areas they can improve on. Where do you think that they most lack as far as being inclusive, and where they can improve on for both, travel agencies and, suppliers out there as well?
I think right now there's a lack of diversity within our travel agencies. The numbers are really low when it comes to people of color. And I want to see travel agencies, parent companies, reaching out to communities of color to bring them in to the fold. It's a phenomenal career to work in the travel industry. And whether that's, we need to market to historically Black colleges or community projects that work to get people of color and diverse communities in the travel industry. I think that's going to help a lot in the travel industry if we can actually try to bring more people of color and diverse backgrounds, as well as like LGBT and people with different abilities. Because when you have a diverse perspective in the travel industry, it's going to help the people that we're serving, which are travelers. It's going to bring about those conversations of unconscious bias. It's going to bring about those conversations of like, hey, we've never marketed to this group, and why aren't we doing that? And how can we do better? And just really, I think, amplify the best things about travel is going to occur whenever we have diverse voices and diverse people within the industry.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, Alex. I think that a lot of the reasons why people choose to travel is to experience different cultures and to different traditions. And so, it would be great to integrate that, just not as a tourist, but in the day-to-day operations of the industry. I will say people of color in general, but I don't know exact numbers, what the numbers are now. But I remember reading in like 2018, it was like $60+ billion that African Americans spent on travel alone. And I don't know if that's a combination of leisure and corporate, but in any case, it's a pretty significant number of dollars spent. And so I think that there's opportunities for us to come together, but also to make sure that we have representation in those areas, because there are, different needs that each population has. And I know it can't be, you can't cater to everything. You have to be able to welcome everyone, but at least having a seat at the table and having a conversation about what the needs are of the travelers that we serve would be something that could be useful to suppliers.
And I would also add, I think it's about 64 billion for African American travelers. Latinx are about 73 billion, have a $73 billion purchasing power in travel. Those are significant numbers, and it's not even what it could be.
Right.
It's still lacking. So I hope that travel advisors and travel agencies and parent companies and suppliers really think about the fact that this is a very significant, very diverse, but each one has a significant purchasing power. It's not even being maximized because have not thoughtfully, I would say thoughtfully serve these different communities when it comes to travel. So if we can do that, it's just going to, across the board, help everybody, no matter what your background is as a travel advisor or a travel agency or a supplier. It's so much opportunity. And I hope people see that. That's when we fight racism, it just means opportunity for everybody to grow in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of growth, room for growth in this industry everywhere. And one thing I found kind of interesting, we talk about data and spending and the numbers and stuff. One thing that kind of jumped out to me was the question for Jemica here is that 8% of all travel advisors are Black. Well, why do you think there are so few Black advisors, and what do you think can be done to bring more in the industry? What was your experience like becoming an advisor yourself? Did you find it difficult as being a Black advisor, or just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will say that, yes, it was, it was a little difficult in the beginning. I think there's always progress and change. I think when we think about travel advisors and historically looking at the profile of what a travel agent, quote unquote, was, it typically was not a person of color. It was, kind of like a middle-aged, Caucasian or white woman or a man that were travel agents. You really didn't see Latino or African-American or, travel advisors. It's pretty, especially in the 80s when it was kind of at the height of the travel agency era, you really didn't see that. My experience, I remember going to trainings, conferences, and webinars and meeting with BDMs and being, maybe having 20, 30 people in a room, being the only one in the room. And so I have definitely seen it grow. I know it's still only 8%, which is, really, it is low. But I think it was, in 2012, it had to be even lower because I have seen so much growth over the last few years, especially not just with advisors joining the industry and realizing that there is a business that can be made, but also in platforms, groups. I'm a part of a lot more discussions with agents of color. These platforms never existed before. So I am happy to see the progress. But I think that one thing that we can do as agents of color is reach out to educate and to mentor. I think that mentorship is key when you're trying to attract people and to try to help them overcome challenges and pitfalls that they may be having and wanting to establish a business. Mentorship is definitely key. Training, of course, but there's so many different avenues you can take to own an agency. And to be a bona fide travel agent, you want to make sure you're kind of on the right path, and sometimes you need somebody to help guide and lead you. But I think that being an agent of color has opened my eyes. It changed my life in a lot of ways. I've had some experience that were great and some not so great. Would not discourage me from traveling at all, but I think that if we educate and mentor and amp our outreach efforts, then it would help to bring people in, because it really is a nice, lucrative business that could be had if you want to put in the work and dedication, and it changes your life and perspective in ways that, I can't even count the ways that it's affected my life in such a positive way.
Excellent. Yeah, Alex, is there anything you would think you would want to add? I think one of the big things that stood out to me was just that 8% number. And I think I agree with a lot of what Jemica is saying of different ways to encourage people to get into the industry, help guide people, do a lot of group community-based kind of communication with people. I've seen a lot of travel advisors have conversations on Facebook Live, kind of like tutorials, do a lot of things like that. I'm sure you see a lot there. So Alex, is there anything that you would see, I think, getting more, not just Black advisors, but Black people of color at different suppliers too? What would you think would, help in that area?
Yeah, I think on one side, I'd like to see a lot of parent companies really look at who their leadership is. People who are trying to come into the industry are going to see, are there people that look like me at this parent company? Are they going to be able to guide me in the ways that I need? Like Jemica said, in terms of mentorship. I also want to see travel agent associations, groups have diverse leadership in their groups as well, that they're going to be able to speak to a wide range of voices within the industry in that manner. I really think there's also, kind of an issue of people don't realize that travel advisors exist anymore, or that they're out here and they're doing amazing things and what they can do for them. So I would really love to see, and I'm sure it's happening in these different groups that Jemica is a part of. But people kind of working to help each other to get those marketing messages out there to showcase, hey, this is my travel advisor company. I am the face of this company. I'm proud to be the face of this company. And I think that travelers really are looking to support people of color who are working in the travel industry, who are suppliers, who are travel agents. But I do know in the past there's been some concern is if I look a certain way, will people want to have business with me?
Absolutely.
I hope that's changing. But with the Black Lives Matter movement, I think that is, and I think people are really trying to support these businesses. So I encourage people to, have the courage, put your face forward, stand in your truth and what you do. And if you do, I'm sure you do it great. But really kind of own who they are. And I think you're going to see people are going to start supporting and really want to help your business out.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of great points. Especially I can recall starting out just trying to develop the company and the brand and the imaging and how are we going to put our face forward. I'll be honest and say that, there was some reluctancy in the beginning to say, gosh, I'm a black-owned business and I'm this, because you don't want people to think that you're lesser quality or that you're not as credible. And there's all these other things that people tend to associate, right? But I will say within not even just the Black Lives Matter movement, but within the last few years, I think you get to a point in your growth as a professional where you're comfortable with who you are and you're going to be that unapologetically and authentically. And you have to, and I started to shift, to not being afraid to be the face of my company, not being afraid to put that in my marketing and my ads and on Instagram and things like that, because I wanted people to know that, we have all of these different populations and surprisingly, it didn't affect my business. Actually, it grew. And not just with people of color, but with everybody in different markets. And so the thing that I thought would prevent me from being successful in growth actually ended up helping me to be more successful in growing just by being more authentic and just being true to who I was. So Alex, I think you hit the nail on the head.
I love that. I mean, even me as a travel writer, when I'm trying to reach out and find travel agents, and I'm really trying to provide diverse voices in my stories whenever I give people platforms, I have such difficulty still finding, I know the numbers are low, but I still have difficulty. I'm looking through LinkedIn. I'm trying to go through the Facebook. I'm like, who owns this company?
Yeah.
I want to see who this person is. I want to connect with them, because if I'm going to trust somebody, even just as a traveler, to book my vacation, I want to see their face. I want to know who they are. So I think that's so phenomenal that you saw that being your authentic self and a business owner really improved your business overall.
It did. Awesome.
And while we're on the topic of it, especially marketing, like how you were just mentioning what you were doing to marketing your business, Jemica, I was looking into that number. I believe you and Alex have brought it up, of $63 billion African-American traveler market. And that's obviously a huge number, not a piece of the market that should be ignored. And when you're looking at marketing that, especially I started diving down like Black travelers, like what are they most interested in? Where can advisors really try to market to bring in that type of business if they traditionally have sold 95% white clients? How can they reach out and get more Black clients per se? So it seemed like a lot of, based on some surveys I saw, Black travelers were heavily interested domestically in like places like Miami, New York City, Atlanta. Internationally, Mexico was huge, a lot of the different Caribbean islands. So Jemica, with that in mind, as far as marketing, what do you think as far marketing, if there's advisors out there that want to market more to different Black travelers or even Black travel agents out there, what can they do to market their business a little bit better to bring in more of that type of business?
That's a good question. I think that there's so many destinations that I've seen grow, and African-American travelers, Black travelers have had an interest in. For instance, South America is another destination. I think destination-wise, at least for my client base, they're ready to expand kind of beyond, I only do international travel. So all of my clients pretty much have, they've done the Caribbean, they've done Mexico, they've done, so they're looking for something new and fresh and exciting. And that's the trend that I'm seeing. I'm also seeing a lot of younger travelers. I'm seeing, I'm not a millennial, quite close to it, but not anymore. But, we have a lot of younger travelers that are really experiencing the world at a young age, and into Europe, into Africa, into South America, and having these experiences. So for me, marketing wise, I've tried to just embrace that. And making sure that one of the things, in addition to putting content and images on the internet, is sharing my experiences while in those destinations as well. Because I think that can help inspire others to, see you at the pyramids and say, oh, wow, gosh, look how cool that is, what kind of experience that could be. Or, going to a historic, iconic place like the Colosseum, So I think that marketing those aspirational destinations and making them realize that they can be attainable is very important. And that's kind of how I try to market is, hey, you can live this too. You can do this too. You don't have to wait to retirement to travel the world. You can get out there and start exploring now.
May I add a few things to that too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So I think one of the great things that travel agents can do to connect with these different communities is, one, find out where these communities are getting their travel information. Are they getting it through, Black-owned magazines and newspapers like Ebony? Then maybe we need to, market through there, or certain Facebook groups that are for only travelers of color, market through there. Connect with different influencers who are, have built up their audience around different travelers of color. When you do have a young traveler, old traveler, or any type of traveler, try to get their feedback after the trip. Get them to post something on social media, share with their friends. Hey, I worked with Jemica Archer. She was phenomenal. She helped me out to see a different part of the world I wouldn't normally go to, and I felt safe and confident, and I had a great time. Showcase these travelers on your social media sites, on your website. Of course, we do need to update all of our photographs on our websites and our marketing materials. Make sure that you have people of color, diverse family types, everywhere, across the board. Count them out on your websites. I tend to find myself, like when I'm on travel sites, counting like, okay, I didn't see that many people of color or diverse types of travelers. And that's what I'm looking for as a traveler if I'm going to support a company. I think we're finding that travelers are more mindful and aware, especially millennial travelers. They're looking to support travel agents who are going to be across the board, welcoming, inviting, and conscious about things like racism and bias across the world. So one of my old articles that I wrote for TravelPulse actually was, how can travel agents really think about the needs of travelers of color? And think about that. Do your research. If you write blogs, that's maybe something you might want to speak to on how you can help navigate those uncomfortable, still very realistic situations for your travel clients as well. So those are just a few ideas.
Great stuff.
All great stuff. Yeah. And just real quickly here, as our time's running low on the Zoom thing here, Jemica, real quick, what can white travel advisors that might be listening right now, what can they do to be more inclusive?
I think one thing that they could do is just educating and trying to help break down stereotypes of their colleagues, as well as educate and break down stereotypes for their colleagues that they think are in the industry, and also in different destinations. People have stereotypes of what people are like in certain destinations, and trying to educate them and break those down. And then also realizing that we're not just one part of travel, like for instance, the luxury travel market is a big area that I see, white travel advisors think that Black people can't be a part of, or are not a part of, or not enough segment or representation there. And it's really not true. I mean, I have a lot of luxury clients that seek upscale accommodation. So I think that it's just really about education, just like anything else. It's just really being honest, asking the questions, and educating each other as well as our clients on what they can expect.
Excellent.
Alex,
Alex,
yeah.
do you have anything?
I absolutely agree. I think, white travel advisors can be phenomenal allies to their people, travel agents of color counterparts by talking to their parent agencies and suppliers and saying, hey, we need to see more people of color in your marketing materials or in your offerings, or we need to have these conversations. It's really just understanding that when your colleagues and your travel clients have the same equal opportunity as you do and as white travelers do, that it's going to help everybody out. This is really, we can't make the travel industry better. We can't grow it without actually helping each other out, being aware of our unconscious biases and how we participate in them, and be comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations. It's okay.
Exactly.
It's weird. It's awkward, but to do that is just going to make everything better for the travel industry.
Couldn't agree more.
Great.
Definitely. It's key to have these conversations and to talk about it, whether it's uncomfortable or not. The important thing is discussing it and being open to growth. So
Absolutely.
thank you, ladies, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Jemica, Alex, Jemica, where can any travelers listening, how can they get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to reach out?
Sure. Well, I'm on, of course, all the social media outlets, but TruBlueTravels.com, Instagram at TruBlue Travels, and Facebook at TruBlue Travels. And of course, you'll see my signature blue and represented in all the branding and icons, so you'll be able to find me. But again, thanks again for the opportunity to just have a voice and to speak out and be a part of the conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Alex, how can folks reach you if they want to?
Yes, you can reach me on social media or on my website. It's alextemblador.com, at Alex Temblador on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything. And just, again, thank you, TravelPulse, for really giving me a platform to talk about these issues. A lot of outlets do not allow me to speak about these things, and I really appreciate that. I have great editors like Eric and phenomenal colleagues like Dan that really have these conversations and allow me to write these wonderful things.
Yes. Thank you again,
Awesome.
TravelPulse. This was a great opportunity.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you both for joining and doing what you do, both for the industry, Alex for, the media side of it, Jemica for the advisor side of it. Definitely very appreciated and amazing work across the board. So thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening. If you have any questions or comments or things that you want to ask or talk to us to continue the discussion, feel free to reach out to us. It's podcast@travelpulse.com. But thank you again, everybody, for listening all the way through for this important episode. And we'll see you next week.